Welcome to the Incredible Stories channel. We are explorers of the unexplained and unbelievable. Today, I'm going to tell you an interesting story. You can also suggest your own topics for new videos in the comments. Now brew up some goodies and enjoy. The story makes headlines across America, dozens of suspects, 6 months of searching, all in vain. Suddenly, the police find the boy on the other side of the country. He is returned home to Los Angeles. But the child's mother, Christine Collins, is convinced that he is not her son. At this point, the story just begins. It could have been a simple note in the crime chronicles of 90 years ago, but it turns out to be much more complicated than that. In this article, you will read about America's most mysterious detective story and learn the answers. How the boy's mysterious disappearance is connected to Hollywood, several maniacs, corrupt police, inequality, feminism, and Angelina Jolie. The story has everything: mystery, detective, and drama. Most importantly, all of these events took place in real life, almost 100 years ago in Los Angeles. Even those who have never been to the City of Angels imagine what this place is like. Hollywood, stars, expensive houses, palm trees, beautiful people driving beautiful cars. But Los Angeles has a dark side: crime-ridden neighborhoods, homeless people, and a long history of mysterious crimes. This city was like that a century ago, just as mysterious and strange events began to happen in Christine Collins' life. And it all begins with her son going missing. On March 10, 1928, 9-year-old Walter Collins asks his mother for money and goes to the nearest movie theater. Cinema at the time is a super attraction. And just then, Los Angeles becomes the world capital of cinema. That's when the major studios that almost everyone knows now emerge. Literally a year before history was made, the first sound film was released. Back then, movies were smaller and people were simpler, so audiences were thrilled just to be able to hear the actor from the screen. So on the afternoon of March 10, Walter Collins goes to the movies. In the evening, his mother is expecting her son for dinner, but he doesn't come. Any parent in such a situation begins to worry, but Christian is worried in two ways. First, Walter has always been a responsible child. And secondly, not long before that, a maniac was caught in Los Angeles. William Hickman kidnapped and killed a child. Everyone in the city knew the story, and Christine Collins was no exception. She went around to everyone she knew, but none of them had seen the boy. In 1928, Los Angeles was a city filled with crime. And it was no surprise that Christine Collins would turn to the police when her 9-year-old son, Walter, disappeared after going to the movies. However, the police informed her that they could not start the search until 24 hours had passed. When the search finally began, dozens of witnesses were questioned, but their testimonies contradicted each other. The police combed the nearby neighborhoods, but no evidence or body was found. Eventually, the police questioned Walter's father, who was in prison at the time. He claimed that he had enemies in the underworld who might be responsible for Walter's disappearance. However, his claims turned out to be false, and the police were left with no leads. Captain J.J. Johnson, the man responsible for the Christine Collins case, played a significant role in this story. The 1920s were a time of corruption scandals for the LAPD, and many city residents believed that the police were only involved in bribery, political intrigue, and intimidation of the public. Johnson was one of the most prominent examples of this kind of behavior. He had a reputation for using his power to silence those who opposed him, including reporters who covered the case. Despite the lack of progress in the case, Christine Collins never gave up. She enlisted the help of a private detective who uncovered evidence suggesting that Walter may have been kidnapped by multiple assailants. With her tenacity and determination, Christine was able to bring the case to the attention of the public, and it soon became a media sensation. The search for Walter Collins lasted for almost 6 months, with little hope of finding him. However, the small town of DeKalb police suddenly found the lost boy, who introduced himself as Walter Collins from Los Angeles. Upon verification, it was found that the boy was indeed the missing child. Christine was ecstatic to hear the news, but she had to pay for her own transportation to bring him home. On Walter's arrival, there was a huge crowd waiting at the train station. Journalists, photographers, and police officers, all eager to greet the missing boy. The press saw it as a hot story, and for the police, it was an opportunity to improve their reputation with the public. But when the boy stepped out of the carriage, Christine was shocked because he was not her son. She immediately told the Captain J.J. Johnson, who was also there, but he tried to salvage the situation by convincing her to take the boy home. Christine was forced to take the boy home, and the captain hoped that she would eventually realize that he was her son. The boy himself added fuel to the fire by smiling constantly, calling Christine Mama, and responding to the name Walter. Christine eventually took the boy home, but the situation only got worse from there. It soon became clear that the boy was not Walter Collins. He didn't know crucial information about his own life that Walter would have known, and his dental records did not match Walter's. But the police refused to admit their mistake, and they pressured Christine to accept the boy as her son. She refused, and even took the matter to court. However, the police continued to claim that the boy was Walter, even after the state of California conducted an investigation that showed he was not. We can compare photos of the real Walter Collins and the boy who arrived. Yes, they look a little bit alike, but the birth mother, even after 6 months, would definitely notice the difference. However, no one cared. The reporters got the story. The cops closed the case. Everyone is happy except Christine Collins. It's hard to imagine the level of insanity going on in the poor woman's life. Everyone around you is sure it's her son. There's a boy running around the house who persists in calling you mom, but you're sure it's not your son. At this point, Christine needs to find rational evidence to make sure he is sane. In the evening, she gives the boy her son's pajamas, but they turn out to be longer. Christine realizes that she has not lost her mind. The boy is not her son, but most importantly, the real Walter Collins has still not been found. However, the police have already announced that they have successfully closed the case. Given the context, they themselves will never admit that they screwed up, so Christine needs to take matters into her own hands, and first they need to prove that the boy they found is an imposter. Christine takes the boy to the dentist. He concludes that the structure of his teeth does not match the history of Walter Collins' records. With this conclusion, Christine goes to Captain Johnson, but he has no intention of giving up and admitting a mistake. Instead, the policeman places the woman in a mental institution. Yes, in those years, the police could put anyone in an asylum without a doctor's report. The law allowed it if, in the opinion of the police, the person was inadequate and a danger to society. Christine Collins ends up in an asylum. At this point, it seems that all is lost and there is nothing she can do to influence the case from inside the hospital, and no one will let her out. The woman realizes that she can spend the rest of her life within these walls. Meanwhile, reporters were eager to get the details of the high-profile case. Despite the child's inability to answer any questions, the police decided to question him. After a while, he admitted that his real name was Arthur Hutchins and that he was 12 years old, not 9 like Walter. He had run away from his father and stepmother's house and overheard a conversation in a cafe about a missing boy from Los Angeles. One of the men said he looked a lot like the missing boy, and Arthur realized that this was his chance. He then went to the police and introduced himself as Walter Collins. Christine was convinced that the boy was an imposter, but the police refused to listen. Christine became increasingly desperate and took the boy to the dentist, who confirmed that his dental records did not match Walter Collins. However, the police still refused to admit their mistake and instead placed Christine in a mental institution. In those days, the law allowed the police to put anyone in an asylum without a doctor's report if they deemed the person to be inadequate and a danger to society. Christine continued to fight for justice and eventually managed to get out of the asylum with the help of a journalist. She sued Captain Johnson, and he was ordered to pay her $10,000, which was a significant amount of money back then. Despite her victory, the true identity of the imposter remains a mystery to this day. Around the same time, the LAPD received a report that a girl believed her 15-year-old brother was in danger on a farm near Los Angeles. When they arrived, they found a 15-year-old boy who claimed his uncle was a serial killer. The case took place on a farm in a small community called Winville. Walter Collins was not the only missing child in the past few years in this area of California. Thanks to the testimony of a witness and the evidence found, police managed to apprehend the perpetrators of these crimes. They turn out to be 21-year-old Gordon Northcott and his mother Sarah. They are accused of kidnapping and killing several boys. There were reports that the number of victims was more than 20. This high-profile case will go down in history as the Wineville murders. Thanks to the boys' testimony and the evidence found, the police managed to apprehend the perpetrators of several kidnappings and murders of young boys. The Wineville murders case involved 21-year-old Gordon Northcott and his mother Sarah, who were both found to be mentally ill. Despite the rumors, the defendants are accused of only 3 murders, including the murder of Walter Collins. The maniac and his mother both confessed and retracted their testimony, both of whom were found to be mentally ill. Shortly before his execution, in 1930, Gordon Northcott agrees to meet with Christine Collins to tell the truth about her son. When she arrives, the murderer declares that he is innocent and does not want to see her. This fact gives hope to Christine Collins, who still believed her son was alive. In addition, the police are unable to find Walter's body. Gordon Northcott was executed in 1930 and his mother was sentenced to a long term in prison. 5 years after that, in 1935, there are reports in the press about the miraculous discovery of a boy who disappeared just in 1928. Allegedly, he had been kidnapped by the Wineville maniac, but he managed to escape along with another kidnapped man, which was Walter Collins. But there was alas no continuation or confirmation of this story. Christine Collins continued to search for her son for the rest of her life. She died alone after 36 years of Walter's disappearance. Sadly, history often leaves only the names of maniacs, but not their victims. Christine Collins' tragic fate was forgotten after a while, and that's where Hollywood played its part. In the early 2000s, screenwriter Joseph Straczynski called a friend who works at City Hall in Los Angeles and said that they were going to destroy a large number of old archives, and some of them might be of interest to the writer. That's how Joseph came across the Christine Collins case. He began digging through the material and discovered the heartbreaking details of the story of a woman who is trying to find her son, despite the fact that the whole world is against her. In 2008, the movie Changeling was released. The role of Christine Collins was played there by Angelina Jolie. What did you think of it? Write in the comments. Be sure to get likes, subscribe to our channel, and check out other amazing stories.